Kioma was Chief Clifford's younger brother's wife until his early demise 6 months ago. His untimely death left Kioma and his only child vulnerably at Chief Clifford's mercy. Aside being her late husband's elder brother, Clifford was also a family chief. As such, was saddled with the responsibility of decision-making within the family and representation at the town council. His chieftaincy title provided him with ample opportunity to be a gold digger and also feast on anything that wears skirt or ties wrapper, especially widows. An old man whose immemorial years of womanizing had provided him with a vast knowledge in speaking to the emotions of widows. Chief Clifford didn't request for Kioma's hand in marriage as was traditionally practiced in his clan before the Civil War. He asked her to lay with him without any right to traditionally inform his late brother. Tabling his request, he assured Kioma that he would take care of her, even better than her late husband had done. Well, Kioma declined his request and warned him never to call her for such again. She informed him that he would never have her body. Little did she know that would mark the beginning of her agony and humiliation as a widow. Her words did not sit well with Chief Clifford's fantasies. He considered it a deprivation of his traditional entitlement and an insult to him and everything he believed in. Clifford denied Kioma and her son of all the properties her late husband left behind. She had no resources to contest what he had done and wouldn't even attempt doing it traditionally because of Clifford's influence over other traditional leaders. They weren't scared of him because of his affluence and wealth. It was his love for diabolical practices that got people avoiding issues with him. As a matter of fact, his shrine was just at the entrance of his house. The Bible considers children are a heritage from the Lord, so God in his infinite mercy blessed Chief Clifford with a wayward son, Jude. Jude, known for his notorious lifestyle in the community, was a thorn in his father's flesh. The young boy, with no sense of respect, has refused to go to school or acquire any meaningful skill. All he does on daily basis is to sit by bushes to smoke, drink, and look for little girls to molest, and to other passerbys, he robbed them of their belongings. Chief suffered several embarrassments from Jude's friends. Some would threaten to rain thunder and brimstone if he doesn't see to it that his son clears his debt. His son's friends disrespected him as much as his son does. In a way, he could only rant without doing nothing. Sadly for Chief Clifford, he spent a greater percentage of his money settling disputes involving his son Jude. He returns equal energy whenever any of the young boys come barking at him, but he regrets the fact that his notorious son was causing him more harm than good. Angrily, he would take up the issue to his son's doorstep, and such actions was always a cause to fight, as his son had no respect for him. In a bid to maintain his status as the owner of the house, he would ask Jude to leave his house but end up on the ground, a structure he had built with his money. Jude would never consider his father to have a right over the apartment that he had been allocated to him for his private use. He never bothered himself with his father's threats. He would go in and come out of the house whenever and anyhow he seems necessary without any form of interference. A day never passed without Chief Clifford coming to ask if Kioma had changed her mind and accepted his request. The more she refused him, the more he kept coming for her. Kioma got tired of reporting to people she thought would have been able to caution him. In recent times, he comes to his late brother's wife without any shame but pride and a sense of entitlement. He would go as far as narrating how much of a caring man he is and how he intends to make Kioma feel like a woman in her youthful days. This time, she wasn't going to take it lightly with him as she orders him to leave her house. Without hesitation, she let go of her fears and threw a bucket of water at him, only if that would have been enough to put an end to Chief Clifford's unrealistic ambition. No, such embarrassment only oiled his persistence. While appealing to have her, he would still threaten to make sure she pays dearly for what she had done. Despite his threats, she was never going to give in as she had sworn never to disrespect her late husband. Chief Clifford's wickedness subjected young Kioma to penury. She had to provide for herself and son by selling proceeds from the little farm she was temporarily gifted with by a concerned citizen. Sadly, the tradition that forbids Kioma from getting married again gave Chief Clifford the right to marry another woman of his choice, 1 month after he lost his wife 3 years ago. Different laws for different people and situations has always been an issue for us here. While at her seasonal business, Dixon was driving out of the street when he picked interest on her roasted corns. Dixon is known for going to expensive malls to buy stuffs, spend heavily on ladies at Casablanca, and having 3 square meals in eateries. Despite Kioma's offer that he should pay 200 naira, Dixon insisted he couldn't pay more than 150 for it. Dixon, just like everyone else, he doesn't bargain prices when he enters malls to buy anything. Dixon don't question the prices, just expressly make payments as indicated in price tags. That poor widow is not selling corns to raise money for expensive houses or cars. She won't be using the money for any vacation or something. She just wants to feed herself and her only child. Well, it was the start of the day's market. The onus was on her to give that to him or probably start her day on a sad note. Reluctantly, she gave him the corn after much persuasion. Few years later, Kioma's son David gained admission to study civil engineering at the Rivers State University. While it remained a joyful gain, the only way David could raise fund was to approach his uncle, Chief Clifford. He visited him, presented his admission letter, and appealed for his financial assistance, at least to pay his acceptance fee. Chief told David he would love to help him, but he wasn't financially buoyant at the moment. Clifford suggested he waits until the following year. He argued that he was still young and he shouldn't be in a hurry to further his education. David was stunned, but then he gave his uncle a listening ear even as he spoke out of ignorance to the demanding nature of the school system. David requested that Clifford allows him sell one of his late father's landed property, as he wouldn't want to stay at home for another year. Clifford declined without giving it a second thought. He claimed those properties were there for emergencies and also as a means to raise funds for a befitting burial when he decides to join his ancestors. Clifford knew how desperate David was and suggested he should go home and tell his mother to come to him. That was the only way he could offer any help, else David should let go of his dream to further his education. With all hope lost, David returned home frustrated, only to meet his mother lying sick in bed. It was rainy season and she had been going to sell her corn under the rain. She may have been strong enough to be going about her business, but Kioma was still a human prone to sickness. This unexpected ill health got David confused, as he was already dealing with academic issues. He was left frustrated and confused with nothing running through his head at that moment. The only money in that house was the little David had been saving for school. In order to get his mother drugs, he would have to use his savings from menial jobs, which included sanitations too. He spent days and nights taking care of his sick mother with no help from his only surviving uncle. David had earlier informed his uncle, but Chief Clifford did not concern himself with what his late brother's wife was going through. He only assured David he would come see his mother when he has a less busy schedule. Chioma's health deteriorated even more, and there was need to take her to the hospital. Once again, David came to Chief Clifford, pleading that he comes to his mother's rescue. Chief Clifford was almost going to turn him down with his usual excuse of having a busy schedule. But then, David was not going to let him breathe, as he insisted Chief would have to go with him before something happens to his mother, in what seemed to be a choiceless situation. It was upon his appeal that Clifford decided to visit David's mother for the very first time in 3 weeks of her sickness. Upon getting to Kioma's house and seeing how critical the situation was, one would think Clifford was emotionally intelligent and had pity on her, but in his thoughts,
how can this be? This can't happen right now. This cannot happen. I need to test this woman before something happens to her. I need to test her, because imagine her front and back.
He gave David 5,000 naira for his mother's medicals, claiming that was all he had. David had spent all his 31,000 naira buying drugs from pharmacy, and Chief Clifford could raise just 5k for her to be taken to the hospital. With pains, David took the money and never said a word to the wicked uncle. With the little he gave, he would return to his house a happy man. At night, David does nothing other than taking care of his sick mother. He could barely sleep at nights because it turns out that his mother's health brings about sleepless nights for them. David spent the night telling her stories just to cheer her up. Well, his mother is all he has got and would do anything to see her happy, only if he had the magic wand that would have dispelled his mother's sickness. He was scared of losing her, but was never going to show his weakness as he cheered her up with his stories. He appealed to his mother to come back to him hale and hearty and promised to make her a proud mother in the nearest future. We knew Chief Clifford was fetish, but we are certain he had no diabolical hand in Kioma's health situation. However, it was his wickedness that compelled her to hawk under the rain in a bid to survive the harsh economy. Just like every other days, David returned home with drugs for his mother. Upon getting to her to request that she sits up and take her drugs, he met his mother's body lying lifeless. Not sure of what was reading through his mind, he consistently had to confirm if she was indeed lifeless or just sleeping. He screamed upon arriving at the undeniable fact that he had lost his mother, the only person that ever mattered to him. Chief Clifford took the cost of Kioma's burial upon himself, as he had considered it something he owed his late brother. After the burial, he invited David and advised him to move on with his life. With little or nothing, Clifford expected David to start a decent life. He wanted David to also give him credit for taking care of the burial bills. As David looked into his eyes, he wished he could strangle him to death. 8 months later, Chief Clifford sold a property worth about 9 million naira, and one way or the other, the information got to the knowledge of David. David had an entire night thinking of how he was to rob Clifford of the money, though he wished there was any other way he could get it, but just none. On the other hand, Jude was already in search of the money, as his father does not use the bank. He found the bag, and while he was on his way out, Jude was accosted by his father, who insisted he returns his money. Clifford's refusal to leave Jude's way led to a fight between them, and Chief Clifford was strangled to death. David called the police, and Jude was arrested, charged and sentenced to death by hanging. His only surviving relative was David, who by tradition inherited all that was left of Chief Clifford. David took charge of everything, recovered those that rightfully belonged to his father, including the living house of Chief Clifford. This would not take away the pains of an orphan, but he would be able to live a decent life and further his academics.